Are you all set? Okay. Being 6:30, we'll start the Wednesday, January 4th, 2023, 2023 special meeting of the Westminster Select Board Budget Workshop. We have a new business budget workshop and an executive session for after. So
Everyone's good?
I think so, yeah. We'll jump right into budget workshop.
So, sorry you got this in your hands just as you're sitting down as opposed to in advance. I didn't finish it until 4:26 this afternoon. The spreadsheet that you have in front of you, you'll notice that in column G and H, one says FY24 budget. That was what was presented a week ago. And then working budget, I have formulas in such that as we change numbers, it will recalculate automatically the property tax for the general fund and the property tax for the highway fund as we play with numbers. But I'll do that on my spreadsheet. It won't be seen live, but I can give you the results. The last page of all the pages that you were given is what was described at the last meeting for the grand list of a given fiscal year, the taxes that it raised off the tax book for the town tax rate, what that tax rate was, and then if there was any use of surplus or use of fund balance within that budget, and then what does the grand list mean in terms of a penny of taxes, which is often one of the questions. So in the presumptions of that last page, we are assuming the grand list for fiscal year 23 produced in fiscal year 24, produced in calendar year 23, will remain the same. We're not making assumptions of growth or decline in the grand list. In doing so, as we talk about budget numbers, think in terms of $28,861.61 as a penny. And based upon the projection right now of 72.38 cents is the estimated tax rate with everything that's presented in this budget. If you are swinging in numbers of $28,861, you're taking a penny off, or you're adding a penny on. So the word of caution is, let's not spend a lot of time nickel and diming $500 when the target is a big number. So I have that formula driven as we change. It'll update my last page. To start with, nothing has been altered in the worksheet that you have under working budget except under the general fund for the manager's salary, which you would find, if you want to look at the lines on the left, this is line 70. In the proposed number that was done by Ken Fay, was 94,000, only by comment made, not board vote. Craig said that should be 73 and put the other back in zoning officer. And so as well in the zoning officer line, that salary went from a 0 proposed to 21,000, which is the difference between 94 and 73. So that I did make that change only based on that comment. Another area that stood out under on line 72, there was plugged in 56,160 for a finance director, which was part of a conversation a year ago as we were going through transitioning treasurers and trying to bring in a finance director position, and you actually advertised for one, I believe. And so my question a week ago about Ally's contract not being in there, well, equivalency, that's the number, so it is in there. Unless you want to extend and have a finance director and an assistant manager and a manager. Those are questions the board needs to address for the 24 budget. What action, if any, you want to take on those? Otherwise, I look forward to hearing what you reviewed and had other comments on based upon the original 16-page document I gave you. Unfortunately, the spreadsheet does not have the budget notes, but this original document still does, and I can read them if we find a page that, or an account number you're trying to say, what was the note?
Is this what you were talking about, the memos?
The memos.
Do you want me to make copies?
If they want them.
Do you want copies of this stuff? The old stuff? That has the notes?
I would.
Okay.
Sure. My
Sure, why
thought.
not, yes.
Thank you, Ally.
Yeah, my concern was of coming in and handing you yet another document, was, oh my God, now we got, which page are we looking at and what are we looking at?
Yeah.
So, as I have let in, I have on the laptop, the live Excel file, as we change revenue lines, expenditure lines, the property taxes get backed into. And again, in increments of $28,861, changes by pennies. Related to the budget discussion was a email I sent, I believe, last Thursday to all the board members with balance sheets on it, at least 3 of you. And we had discussions briefly about having to supplement the bridge fund. We had discussions of moving FEMA current year 23 surplus back into the highway fund, which the board voted to move it over, the public authorized it, that you could make an article in which to move 200,000 back in FY '24, back into the highway fund, recognizing that in increments of 28,000, immediately that's going to drop the tax rate if you transfer that back in. If you transfer it in straight to the highway fund and do nothing else with it. One of my emails, or I think it was a subsequent one, indicated that highway and maybe culverts had not yet had their FY '23 allocations transferred in. So the numbers you had on the balance sheet don't include this year's budget contribution. And so those all will shift what those balance sheets look like. I had been in communication with Chad Hewitt from Sullivan Powers in the last day. He rifled off a series of 38 questions to me to answer if I could. I answered what I could. He at first expressed he didn't like the idea of the 350 that left general government to go to the FEMA fund. But then when I explained to him, not only did the board move it, the public authorized that move. So as much as you don't like it, it was not chosen by the board. Ultimately, it was chosen by the public because he wanted to move it back. So I just told him he couldn't. So that's why, by the same token, if you wanted to have an article that for FY '24, you're going to move 200,000 back into the highway fund, then we could put that, that article oddly would come after you vote your budget, to then move it back with the understanding it would be used to reduce taxes. So you present your numbers, and then you say, we'd like to move this back to reduce the taxes.
Excellent. Could you, I'll make an interrupt you, could you just say that again?
That
That little, get that whole,
that you could have an article for voter approval to move from the FY '23 fund balance of the FEMA/storm fund, $200,000 back to the highway fund for the purposes of reducing taxes? Yes or no, right?
Thank you.
If you move the funds there, you're assuming that we don't add any more charges to the highway, correct?
Its purpose would be the same, regardless if we add any more.
Right.
It would still be a reduction in the amount needed to be raised by taxes overall. Even if we increase more things in highway, the 200,000 is purposed to say, we're gonna drop the amount to be raised by taxes for highway. Right now, I'll give you the line number just so you can reference and see it. This is a number that is backed into
Thank you.
the highway
Thank you.
property tax line. Is on line 204. And it is right now, by formula, comes in at $1,229,623 is the amount to be raised by taxes as it stands right now. With that motion, the amount to be raised by taxes by the time you set a tax rate, if that passes, is dropped by 200,000. Okay?
Which would be 100,000 less than, am I reading that
Than
right?
last year,
Right.
but we haven't changed anything.
Right.
Right. I want to also make it very clear that in this spreadsheet, I have treated articles to transfer money to bridge, to the equipment and all that stuff, as if they are in your budget for purposes of the tax evaluation, because we can't compare tax rates unless we include all that was included in that tax rate. So when you present, if you will, the article for taxes, if you have separate items, you have to reduce the tax number and the budget number by the separate items for the article for the budget. Again, if the other items, transferring to the equipment fund, transferring to bridge fund, any of those others,
All the articles that the people come and we have to raise every time, you got this included so far in there, assuming they're all
yes,
like that.
the big ticket ones are, shall we transfer 175 to equipment fund? Shall we transfer 35 to the bridge fund, or 25, whatever those numbers are? I've included them because we're trying to compare overall tax rate. And if we're comparing to what actually did happen, those things were included. Another item that I got an email today from Kelly that West Library is asking for $7,000 more dollars.
It's their last time.
So I don't know if that was in the 23 budget or was added to the 23 budget. We'll look at that line, which is,
Would have been added, right? So it was a separate
It
article.
was that pilot
It was-
program, remember the pilot program? They wanted extra money to hook up all that, and I thought it was gonna go away this year, but now he's saying it's gonna go one more year. Is that
The
what he's saying?
library,
It's gonna end up being every year if they get it this year.
Yeah, they do.
It's gonna be,
years.
it's just gonna be on the budget.
it's gonna be on the budget if you get it this year, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So what I can't tell, and this would be, I'm thinking, the line on your page is 194, in which 22 shows a budget of 15.4, actual 15.4. And then 23's budget is 8.4, but if an additional 7,000 is supposed to be added to that yet, and it was not, then the 23 number for budget and for actual will change. But then I would carry as the working budget the 15,400 as if that article passed. Okay? And so immediately, that's another 7,000 in taxes to be raised in the general fund. So following why the spreadsheet's gonna do something that is different than how you need to actually make your articles is important. If the overall goal is to look at what would the ending tax rate be should the voters say yes to the shooting match? Because that's what the question's going to be. So, based upon that, is it the consensus of the board to make that number be 15,400 on line 194 for the working budget?
I think so.
I
Yes,
think so.
yes. I say yes.
I'm agreeing.
I think the 54 was a pilot, but now it must be they're asking for it all the time, which means that, if I understand this right, they gotta ask it for 2 more times, because last year they went to 8,400.
No. Last year, I think they asked for the 7,
Right.
and the budget wasn't updated.
The budget wasn't updated. It's the third year asking for 7,000 and they're done.
So, and that's only
It's the
by.
Catamount something network, I don't remember.
Yeah, it's to join the statewide library network system.
Yeah, I
Right.
don't see 7 anywhere, but I guess I trust it.
So,
Is he 15.4, is he 84, and is he 77?
yes, I think the 84 was the original. They had a petition, it passed for 7,000 more. And the
Oh, for
23,
7,000, I think it meant 7 total, okay.
yeah, and I think that budget never got adjusted, so I
Oh,
don't know
yeah.
whether or not the 23 taxes that got
Okay.
calculated actually included
It
it.
took me a while to comprehend what you're saying.
Yeah, and I'm just going by what I see on the screen and what I understand to be the conversation. So,
I think that's right.
That is right.
Yeah,
right?
I believe,
Um,
I would agree with you.
So that's based on that email.
So you're saying that would bring that total to what, carry the 15.4?
Carry the 15.4 as if the 7,000 article does pass.
Yeah.
And so as we look at, again, the amounts to be raised by taxes, and we back off the separate articles from total expense and from total to be raised by taxes. That's what our article for the budget will be. Not everything included intentionally. I think the other things that I had put in to the email, December 29th, were actions that I would recommend for January 11th activity. So you could warn that you're going to take action on specific changes in value budgets and what have you.
Excuse me.
Can I, this is, I'm not trying to nickel and dime, but I'm trying to comprehend line 149.
Line 159.
Why doesn't that not make sense? Am I missing something?
Heating oil.
Why would we go from 1,600 and put 2,500, we've already spent this year 6,100. You sure that wasn't a heating bill or something that should have gone in the wrong place?
The original one that I saw in October was 20,000, so it's getting better.
Yeah, but we've never used that kind of oil in our lives here.
Right.
That's a lot of oil.
Okay.
Is it volume or is it just cost?
It's cost, but we didn't even double.
Did you install a bigger tank?
No, anything, we got more heat, so we're using more electricity because we're using less oil because now we have these on.
Yeah, more electricity.
So we're using more electricity, so we knew it was gonna go up, but the oil bill was supposed to be going down.
But those things only work up here, they don't
Yeah,
operate.
but before, we were running heat up through here from down in the
Okay.
basement.
Okay, yeah,
And you can see, I mean, 22, we budgeted 2,500, only spent 1,600.
okay.
We did 2,500 again, thinking it is, and we're not even through the year with 61. I just got a feeling there's something wrong.
I think it's just a function of cost. The cost is so much more this year, no?
Well,
That's a lot of
That's a
oil.
lot,
So-
that's a lot of difference.
Yeah.
so
It's $4 a gallon, 4 plus right now.
We got it at 475.
585?
5, 6, 7. Yeah, I don't just suggest it, I don't know.
Is this the first time we've ever been on auto delivery?
No.
No,
You've
not
always
here,
been
not here.
Here,
no.
okay.
Yeah. Allen Brothers did it, who was before that, they always did it, you know?
HB.
Right.
Yeah.
That heating oil is gonna have to jump.
yeah, so
That's my whole thing, did we actually spend that? Then if we did, we need to put more money in that line item.
But we're not done yet.
Right.
So I can, because I actually have your data.
Well, it's certainly not gonna go down
Right.
No, but
substantially, but.
again, not looking at it directly, the net increase to heating oil began its disparate impact actually in '22. like physically in 22. That's where it went from 262
But
to
it-
505 or 515.
So take the
second half.
1,600 and double it, just take the
No,
1,600.
no, I'm just saying.
So we're still only halfway there, well, we didn't quadruple it, you
Right,
know?
right.
In that, it's not like his tanks where they're huge, where you can all of a sudden take a big hit.
I'm with
A
you.
regular fuel tank, you don't need to do
The
100
price
gallons.
is up.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Yeah, it is, but, okay, whatever. We do need to put more money in there if we're already there. I just wonder if it's something, we bought something and got put in the wrong line item.
I'm checking.
Possible.
I have your data on my laptop as well, so some of this
Even if you use the exact
research I
same
can do
gallons, it's 4 times the cost.
instantaneously.
Yeah, well, that was last
Couldn't
year. That
even,
was,
couldn't even
that
get this
was
stuff, that's right. That'd be-
February of,
Yeah.
well, this year.
Not even a year.
Yeah.
No, that's not even a year. That's 11 months.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So if you look at January, February, and March, the oil price was through the roof.
It was, but it's not.
I'm with you.
And I didn't know, in that heat oil, was that the propane, which we had 1,500 in there for propane? I can't seem to find that, I assume they must have put that propane. We budget 1,500 every year for propane.
It was basically a wash when CODIS switched over, because it was almost full. So CODIS gave us a full tank, put it in, filled the tank, and then HB reimbursed us what was in that full tank that they took away.
But I know
But
that last year we
those
had.
generators hardly ever run.
Right, we had 1,500 in there for propane. When we went to bid, remember, we bid it out. The bid was 1,500 gallons, and we're like, what the hell would they use that much? And that's what the bid was. I don't know where we put it or how much we actually took. We couldn't take it. We even thought when we did the bid, it was like, no way we're gonna use that, but that's fine. I just think we need to increase that line item just in case somebody looks at it and goes, if we're at 6,100, how are we gonna get by with 2,500? But
Well, what do we want to change it to? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Sue.
This isn't about oil, but I have another issue. I'm gonna kick my dead horse again. So I wondered if under computer contract services, there's money for
line item?
updating the website.
What line item?
What's your line item?
It is 52. I mean, that's,
I like this.
yeah.
This is so much easier for me
Yeah.
Yeah,
to follow.
very well
It is
done.
much easier.
Number per podium.
So currently they're budgeted 27,000. That's for this year.
We went to 30.
And he went to 30, and this year was supposed to include the 2,500 for updating the website, so whatever, I just want to make sure there's money.
I can assure you that it's not been lost. We haven't lost sight of it, but
Okay.
there's been some excitement that we've had to deal with in the
I
meantime.
totally understand, I just want to make sure this dead horse doesn't like lie down and.
Go ahead.
Sick horse. You ain't dead
Sick-
yet.
Yeah, he's-
Right, not dead yet, right. I'm gonna keep kicking it until it gets up, so.
And we appreciate your persistence.
No, I agree too. I agree with you.
Can you,
So if I can return to heating oil, 2 bills have been paid, Dakota and Coda, one for $5,771.98, and the other one for $330.41. So they are Coda and Coda bills, unless one of those happened to be a statement that included more than one location. Okay, and, yeah, I can't tell you, it was 11/17/22,
for $5,000, you sure that wasn't fuel for the truck?
very well could be.
The statements all come here. so.
Yeah, so.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm almost thinking it's the truck, it's the fuel for the truck.
That sounds like a dump of a large tank, 1,500 gallon tank or something,
2,000 gallon tank, yeah.
that when you get to half, you check
They
it.
don't leave me the slips anymore. They used,
They
They
were,
used to.
they were told to leave it there,
well,
in your mailbox.
maybe, but they don't.
Okay, so
That $5,000 has gotta be.
So there must be, I don't know.
that's a lot to put in this
That's diesel
building.
fuel. Yeah,
Because this building's only 660.
Yeah, no, so it's gotta be.
yeah. Hey, can you, Chuck, could you check into that?
We'll check into that, or
Greg,
Thank you.
finance should check into that.
Thank you.
It's not Chuck.
Chuck doesn't need to check into that, it's a financial question.
Well, no, I just questioned, you actually get it?
I don't have any idea, Craig.
That-
I don't
Came in
get
with
the
slips the
slips.
other day.
No, they don't leave motor
So-
fuel slips.
You came
When
in
they,
with slips
listen,
the
when they
other day.
deliver the fuel, they mail the slip after the fact here. long after the fuel's been delivered.
They do the same to me too.
Right, so I have trouble, I can't track the fuel, because they don't always bring a full load either. If they have
It's whatever's left.
100 gallons on the truck they're looking to dump, they wheel in, they dump it, and they go. You know what I mean? So that's the way that works with auto delivery. So I can't track how much fuel's being used versus what's leaving, because it doesn't, so
Inventory.
that's my,
You're
I'm
talking
hoping
about
that-
gasoline, you're not, or.
No,
or
diesel
stuff-
fuel.
That's what I'm talking about, okay,
Yeah.
you're not talking about heating, yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
But if we got a
So we can-
statement, the statement wouldn't break it.
oh, it should
Yes.
have delivery
Well,
slips.
So it shows the history.
You go through with the driver drops,
Right.
Kelly does, with the driver drops and what the bill
Right,
is.
but what you're seeing on your end, you're just seeing a lump
That's all I
payment
have.
Right.
made.
I see.
Could be
Right.
4 products on there for all we know, for all you know.
Yeah, I can't,
Because then it could be, well, I don't know, the statement must have gas and diesel and heating oil all in the same bill.
I don't think so.
I don't have any idea.
And I don't think they'd combine the
His
gas.
fuel is mixed,
I
so
didn't
you
look at
can't,
it.
they can't be delivering even to the same building.
Say that again? Yeah, no, that's,
No, we're not disputing that. We're saying when they send a statement to this
Right.
building, it could have gasoline, heating oil, and off-road fuel, or on-road, however they
all we
delivered
get
it.
on road.
They
It's
get,
all-
so when you make a payment, you're not paying 3 different checks, you're paying 1 check.
One check to per invoice.
That's right, which is what he's seeing on his end.
right. So we just gotta look into the
I think Craig's
backup.
probably right on that. I think there's something that just got shuffled in the wrong spot.
Right, so based upon that,
Hey, can I ask you a dumb question? What's, no, I'm embarrassed to not know what line 53 is. Did I miss something?
well, I'd like to decide what you wanna do with
Yeah.
heating oil. You wanna leave it
Let's- yeah,
2,500 and assume that there's a mistake in the 55,
We can
5,700?
change that on the 11th.
We can,
Should you find a mistake somewhere, or something's,
all right,
I would, I'm comfortable leaving it like you
You know what
did.
that is?
all right.
No, I don't know. That's all.
Yeah,
You
you
remember, we had a discussion over this, about costs associated with the school merger, and I don't know if that was legal costs.
it was the cost of the voting,
Okay,
the clerk's expense for the voting and the newspaper and all that, which we've never,
okay.
So we went from 3,000 to 4,000 this year?
Well, the 4,023,
that's right, he just carried it over.
I just carried.
Because we tried to bill them for that, and
We
Right.
billed them numerous times, why walk
and
it
they
down?
haven't paid it.
No,
Yeah. So there is no, looking at 23 year-to-date, you haven't spent anything. Again, Ken's budget was 4,000. No idea what backed that up or why. And then it's been repeated in
I
the
don't know
working
what he-
budget.
I don't know what he's talking about now.
Line 53.
Line 53.
Okay, all right,
We jumped
Yeah, sorry.
around there.
okay.
I'm trying to
I
turn them
can't
into
take-
one line and
I
talk.
It's like-
can't propose if
herding
I don't know
cats.
what you're talking about.
Yeah, so has there been any discussion of additional voting? I think the separation's already taken place.
yes.
And so I don't see a need for ballot expense. And we have inquired about the school for the warning as well, because we need those numbers.
we've been after, Kelly has been after them, and they can't promise us anything until the end of January for the, so we can't, they're just gonna have to do an insert for the budget part of their meeting.
So the
So we-
warning that you have to
Right.
publish 45 days in advance, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So, if so, how much is the warning? It's all you got. You don't have a number, so you have to stand up at the meeting and provide the number. So your warning has to read, shall for the ensuing year, so how much? When somebody gets up,
Yeah, yeah.
Inserts a number.
well, modify the warning, you know,
Yeah, right.
the motion is modified for.
We do it every year.
Yeah, I think that's,
Well,
oh,
one of the things too is we don't know what we're gonna get from state.
yeah. The whole
So-
school
Right, so yeah.
is just, that's out of this board's
Well,
camp.
the only reason I was asking for the 4,000, because at the time I was thinking about taking the 4,000 and putting it towards heating oil.
No, so we can remove, I think it's safe for the board by consensus to agree to just remove 4,000 because the school merger expense, we don't think is gonna be a repeat.
Thank you.
Correct.
Thank you.
I would say that's correct.
I agree.
I think
Are we good on line 53 right now? let's go back to oil.
Right, that's
Let's
the
go
one
back
we're
to
taking
heating.
out, the 4,000, right?
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. Do we wanna leave,
4,000 for the oil, that's why I was.
well, do we wanna leave the oil right now and investigate between now and next Wednesday?
Yeah.
If there was something that just got coded wrong, or do we wanna make a change right now?
I think the 2,500 should stand, and that we investigate the $5,700 bill and make sure it's right.
Okay,
I agree with
and
you,
we can make that change if we need to
correct.
on the
I
11th.
was
So-
more nervous because we told the voters that our fuel bill should go down, but our electric bill would go up when we installed all these.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I'm going, like, if you told me the electric bill was going up, then I'm definitely going along.
Every
with that.
voter, though, pays for oil and electricity, and they're gonna know right now that it's not gonna be the same.
No, but I'm just saying, not,
I know,
not the cost, I'm talking about the usage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking about.
Usage is a direct relation to cost. You use more, you're gonna pay more.
Yeah.
Right.
So my recommendation is leave it the
Sorry,
same, investigate what we determine for an invoice,
I think that
and
makes
then
sense.
between
yes.
now and next week, hopefully sooner than normal,
Okay,
I can get you a revised spreadsheet like this that gives you the numbers after changes made tonight.
okay.
So
Terrific. Yeah,
Thank you.
that
very
would be
much.
the
Is
goal.
everybody in agreement on that?
yes.
Thanks.
Go ahead.
Moving on to the next thing, sorry.
Are we good with fuel right now?
I am.
Okay,
That's it.
go ahead. What's the next thing?
Line 104 is all over the place, it's mapping. Can somebody just explain that to me?
Listeners.
Yes, I
Yes.
can.
I was like, Ally's here, this is a good one.
So, you're familiar with how the clerks got their deeds online?
Yes,
Okay. This is the listers version of that. So tax maps will be online,
okay,
and they will be very, very, almost perfect to your lot.
okay,
So it's something they were gonna have to do
Right.
eventually, so they're
Yeah.
just getting on it now, so they're up to code. So I just told them to plug the number in. I don't think that was too bad of a number,
no,
at
no,
all for,
it just looked kind of all over the board,
right,
so.
just in case, so this is just in case we have another pandemic.
Right,
People can get their deed, they can get their tax map, house can
and
sell.
keep
Do
going.
we
Right.
charge for a fee for that, or they just come online
The-
for free?
The list, not, I didn't ask that, but I do know the clerks, I think it's $3. Clerks get $1 and Nemrick gets $1. I don't know how it works.
Since,
I don't know.
Okay.
But I know they
There's
do
some
get a
revenue.
kickback of funds for that,
Yeah, I
yes.
just knew there was some revenue coming, but it's.
Yeah.
speaking of listers, that's
Right.
Did you want?
99.
Oh, I had something to add.
We allocated
Yeah.
15,600.
We're,
In the current,
198,
current year budget,
Right,
99.
15,600,
99, yep.
right,
Okay,
that got reduced to 14,508.
right. Yeah, because we're only at 2157 year to date.
Are we short of listers?
We are 2 listers,
Right.
so
Well-
we haven't spent that money.
I don't think we're
Jackie?
short a lister, we just have listers that don't.
John doesn't bill,
Put the
it's his
time.
service to, he volunteers for the town.
Right.
right,
And Jackie hasn't been coming in. We have Rachel every Wednesday. And then I try and sit in there when there's not chaos.
So,
So not very often.
So the door's closed.
right.
That sounds like a
So
chicken.
you're typically, right around the middle of February is when the listers will be very proactive with property transfers, looking over zoning applications that have been either applied for or completed, to then do inspections in the spring to have a value for April 1st of '23. Okay? So that's when there's quite a bit of work. And then, of course, the homestead declaration downloads already have begun. And so many of them they don't bother to do the validation for those till mid-February or even March, depending upon how active your listers are. So I think you're seeing low numbers because you're at the wrong end of the fiscal year when their activity is very busy. Up to June 30, they are right out with grievances, grievance hearings, all that stuff happens at the end of your fiscal year. So it's not surprising it's a low number right now.
What do you think, Alan?
Yep.
Okay,
That makes sense to me.
good.
Did you have a question on mapping again, still?
It is, well, yes, sort of.
Okay.
So it's more of a revenue question for listers, because if I understand correctly, the maintenance for the online mapping is gonna be like
Yes, yeah, yeah.
500 a year, I think. Is there enough revenue coming in to cover that expense with, if they're currently, the way it's set up?
There,
And I don't know enough about the lister stuff,
there's next to no revenue that comes in on the lister side.
right?
Yep, Millie?
I was on the Heinsberg, Vermont website today looking for a tax map. They charge $5, and all their stuff is online, but they charge $5 if you want a copy. You can get it online, but you have to also put the information
So
in.
we always had revenue coming in.
I
The
don't-
listers,
Paul's gotta
listers,
know about that.
I guess I could have the listers write something up for next week, or one of them can
Just-
show up.
Right,
If it's possible, that would be.
because it'd be nice if they would at least cover the maintenance expense of the,
And so for all materials that, if they walked in the door to the clerk's office to obtain, they pay a fee for it.
correct,
Then online, they should be paying a fee for it.
correct.
It doesn't matter whether the public record being copied was a lister card. Does not matter. It's a public record. And so there's a fee schedule set by the state for the clerk. And I think so, in the case of Kevin looking for additional revenue, this is a source that you may be underutilizing simply out of not knowing.
Right.
Can I ask Millie a quick question? How do you pay that on, like through Heinsberg? Do you do it right?
You gotta put in a credit card or
Like
a
a-
debit card or something.
PayPal or something?
Yeah.
or like-
Yeah.
Yeah, it's managed through a third-party credit card manager.
Yeah, yeah.
And not that I want you to do this, but typically when a municipality has a third-party contractor doing credit card work, the fee that can be anywhere from 1% to 4.5% is added onto the charge of the user and not paid by the town.
Right.
Versus people in retail, they lose the 4.5%.
Yeah.
Right.
The municipality can't take 4.5% off somebody's tax bill for them using a credit card.
Right.
That would not work.
I only asked that because this spring, Kelly had asked about a card machine, like downstairs for trash tags or whatever. Just, I don't know about using it for huge amounts of money, but incidental stuff. And I had checked at Mascoma and they did offer it. That's the only reason why I was just
Yes.
asking.
I'll tell you from a reconciliation of cash standpoint, credit cards become a nightmare unless you know upfront how to manage the flow of the information getting to your bank account, because it'll show up at the bank when it shows up there, an actual cash value.
Yeah, yeah.
But it'll show in your books that it happened on Thursday, and you may not see the money for a week.
Yeah, right.
Right,
So if you're gonna start that, you wanna have a good, clear plan of how you're gonna know and control it.
Gotcha. I don't know if it's a battle we want to take on at this moment, but I just was
We got enough balance.
throwing it out there.
But
that's all.
but as an aggregate, if you're looking at, I'm assuming we're just gonna quickly go over interest.
Yeah.
1 minute. So I'm looking at the interest earned, you're looking at a factor, I'm looking at a factor of 6,800% increase in that. So all I want to look at is a comparable, what is the average aggregate over a 12-month period fiscal year that we are utilizing or getting interest, how much money is actually the average, right? That we're getting and actually booking as interest versus what we're getting paid now, because the amount is huge.
Yeah, there are points at which your general fund cash account will drop to less than 100,000.
Right.
Um,
But at the highest point it is,
Well, you're sitting on 2-point-something million
Right.
today.
right. But we may have that for 90 days.
February 15th your due date, and if there was a February
February 10th.
30th, February 10th, okay. So by March 1st, you gotta pay the school the second half and the total amount that you owe them. The total amount you owe them far exceeds your budget. So that 90 days is used up, right now, you'd get 55 days out of it. But we haven't collected it yet because it's not February 10th. So that's why that, as I described last time, the actual cash flow, there is not a period of sustainable 90 days of free cash because of the nature of a municipal organization, paying bills every 2 weeks, paying people every 2 weeks, and then gets this huge hit against the school twice a year within 20 days after the due date of each payment. And what we're still sitting on, and I don't know the number that we're waiting on to get back from the storm, but we've gotten $300, almost $400,000 back, but our anticipation is to get $900,000. So at that point then, there'll be quite a bit that will be sitting around in cash that would be our return of $350,000 in fund balance that we transferred across in '22. So the future holds, we're gonna see our cash reserve return, because you had one. But then July 29th happened, and we used it. The question was asked back that time was, how are we paying for this? And we have the money. Okay?
Has that money been obligated to the state?
Is what?
Yes. All
What's
of
that?
our
The
projects have
storm-
been obligated to the state, and in October, Ally, I believe, signed the thing for the state accepting funds, however they worded it. And they were going to send us funds within 3 or 4 weeks, which you know how the state works, and that hasn't happened, I don't think, but I don't know.
So it was October or November that we booked the 395,000? November. So we just got that.
Yeah.
On that bank statement that showed up, so I got the voucher, provided the entry to be made.
And I think that was the last of the projects. Everything else had
It
already.
might have been the last of the projects, but the first of the payments.
No,
No. I don't think so. I think that was the last of the payments.
yeah,
The
we've
last of the
already been
projects.
paid.
We've been paid for all the other projects already.
It was two rounds, right? We got the first, I think that was the second, and we had that culvert outstanding still because it wasn't completed.
That's because, right, because that was a storm mitigation grant after the fact. It wasn't actually storm damage that we got paid for the culvert. It was a grant they gave you afterwards to upsize. So that was a
'Cause
different deal.
We used the original, or we used the money from the first projects to
To pay
pay
the-
back the loan. And
That's
that
right.
was in July, June?
Yes.
July. So I don't think we have any more FEMA funds coming.
Coming back.
I think.
Other than that, well, I don't know about that culvert deal, whether that's part of this.
No, that's separate.
Right.
That was run through the highway fund itself.
This should be separate, yeah.
So you might, and if that's truly the case, then what you have sitting there is all you have. So you put in,
I think that is all.
Yeah.
you put in 350 and you're only gonna get 200,000 back. So your contribution to to all of that was 150,000 in the end.
Yeah.
But I was under the impression that through your local, what do they call it, forced labor, your own trucks, your own men, your own equipment, and administrative costs through Russ Hodgkins, that those were going to more than make up for your local share resources. So the inquiry that I would be looking for from the state is whether or not you have received all of your FEMA reimbursements as of today. They used to provide a cash flow spreadsheet by project worksheet back in 2011. That was the technique that was used for Irene. Every project group in this case had its, here's your cost, here's the ERAF money, here's the federal money, here's the local share that's left for you, right? Remember, I don't know if you saw those spreadsheets, but that
The
is.
last one.
That is what I would like to see the state be able to tell you. Because they will tell you on that spreadsheet how much they anticipate you still get to receive. And that's the number we really want to have.
How do we contact?
You email them,
Well, you should be able to get right on that,
yeah.
The portal,
yeah.
okay, I've never been on it, but if it's like any of the other federal government portals,
Right, and I
so,
think her name was Christine, it's not Kim, it's somebody else.
yeah,
They referred us to, who's in charge of funds,
Okay,
yeah.
I don't know, so that was beyond,
yeah.
Kelly and Russ were the only two that were cleared to get on that to see.
Yeah, and
So-
I don't know if any login credentials have been altered or changed.
Since.
I had
yeah,
a brief
don't know that.
conversation with Ken about all the different logins being still as if Russ Hodgkins was personally logging in, which needed to change. So you're probably still in that condition, where when you log in, you're using identification that actually belongs to a previous manager. So with that, if that's the case, again, the recommendation for July 11th, there's an article to move back 200,000 to the highway fund. And by doing that, we know directly that's going to reduce the amount to be raised by taxes. And if we warn it such as, that's the purpose. In my email, I probably alluded to, we could move FEMA money back to the highway and then do supplemental payment to the bridge. In '23, my take is based upon where you stand right now, it would be better to bring that back and simply utilize it to reduce taxes. Because I believe that's one of your goals is,
Yeah.
with all the dysfunction that we have, that we need to try to at least stabilize the tax rate, because in '24 theoretically, our employment will be all lined up and working. And try to stabilize again.
I have a question on line 144. Excuse me, municipal buildings maintenance. Where so far we've used 19,423 of 20. That, I'm assuming his boiler was a large chunk of that.
And we haven't even seen Lucas's thing for the sewer.
All right.
37, 10, 68.
Well, I look at this building from the outside and the paint's falling right off from it.
Just,
I was here
guess
when
I'm
they
getting
painted
old,
it
I know we
14.
painted it twice since I've been on the board.
Roofing
I don't-
slates coming on.
Roofing slates
I don't doubt it. I mean, if you don't keep up with it,
Yeah.
it's gonna be a serious expense. I mean, it's all gonna be a big serious expense anyway, but.
So,
And we're not through the year yet, we've already used 19 of the 20.
the biggest one in here, DeCamp Plumbing, 16,650,603.
That's the
That's the
boiler.
boiler.
There's another decant for 194038.
That could be it. I've asked her about that.
Question, so, building, since it's separated, your building maintenance is separate from this, okay,
Yes, so when we separated the funds
yeah,
a year ago, it was intentional to take everything that could be associated with highway, put it in Fund 102.
yeah.
So his buildings are separate, his
Okay.
vehicles are separate, his insurances are separate, his employee benefits are separate.
My buildings have always been separate, though, even before that.
Yeah, they were in 5300.
Yeah,
Yeah. The rest of those, Alpha Elevator, Vermont Elevator, KDB Inc., and Streeter LLC, all bills that were less than $400 each.
Okay.
So,
So what, Ally, what are you saying, that the sewer system's gonna be fixed this year?
No, they had a
No,
backup.
we had a bad problem with, all of a sudden, I don't know, I didn't notice anything until it just went bad. Toilets weren't going down, sinks were bubbling up. And, so we put a call in and decamp come, and next thing you know, we were inundated with plumbers. We had a problem. There was a,
leach field failure.
nope. That long, jam full of paper towels in the sewer. Right before it went into the sewer tank, there's a catch-all of some sort,
Oh, it's probably meant to be
D-box.
an oil trap.
and it was just jammed with paper towels. And just couldn't take any more, so someone was flushing paper towels for a number of years.
So there is no major, this 16,000 was because we had to replace the boiler, but
Yeah.
now we're putting another 20 in there, so my question is, are we really gonna use 20 on the building? when we don't have anything big tickets coming up.
Well, you do.
Well, you just said paint,
The paint's falling off this building.
So,
you're missing a roofing slate.
I bet you'd be surprised what it costs to paint this
I'd like to
building.
see what the cupola looks like too.
I'm just throwing it out there.
You
that
I
see it
know
from
you
the
did.
post office,
I
I
would
know
You're gonna
you did.
continually
you
need,
know.
because
I look at it every day. But
Oh,
then, but remember it was
even
the
though you
one big
fixed it.
window would have blown it out?
I'm not objecting
I said,
it.
even though you fixed the building.
I just think
it's
when we
falling
put a
apart.
line out like that, we gotta have a plan. If your plan is to paint it, then I'll go along with it, but if it's just.
I don't necessarily have a plan, but
At a minimum, I think, we're gonna be here.
Yeah.
On this, instead of that. So
Yeah.
we've got 20 grand right there.
yeah, so there's the,
what's that now?
Give me the 20 grand here. Any interest? Even assuming that we're just doing de minimis numbers.
No,
That's
I,
what we're gonna be.
it's still, each thing has to stand up for itself, and we need to put 20 in the building and put 20. But if somebody asks me, what are you doing with the 20, and we all look at each other, I don't know, we're just gonna put it there.
How much
So-
we're doing that.
And the plan is to paint it, then that,
It's, at the end of the day, it's an old building. It's gonna always need
right.
maintenance.
Yeah.
That's just what it is.
So I'm not saying that you make it zero, but we've only spent $1,600 in '22.
so theoretically, if you've got
I mean,
20,000, you go out to bid and see if you can get it painted. Before June 30th.
I'm sorry, six,
Good luck on that.
Yeah, right.
And it's not gonna cost 20,000, is it? Probably gonna be.
To paint this building, to scrape and paint this building,
Oh, geez.
I bet you wouldn't even wanna guess.
So,
It's gonna be a lot.
I bet it'd be 50 grand.
More than
so,
that. Bet you
Yeah.
might.
So let me ask you though,
20's not
I'm
gonna,
not saying we wanna add $50,000 to it, but
we gotta at least leave the 20, in my opinion.
no, but let me go back. If we put 20 in here and we don't hire a painter, that line item doesn't carry over and we keep adding to it because it's not an article. So we're wasting the 20 if we're
Yeah,
not
we
gonna
could at
actually
least get the
use it. That's my whole point.
so,
If you want to have a sinking fund or whatever you want to call it, that's different.
yeah.
Right.
This is, if it's a joke that we gotta spend 40 or 50, then don't put the 20 and we'll come back the year when we do the 40 or 50.
so one of the things that I've seen done, and I'll use the Rockingham Meeting House as the example. It's a little bit larger than this place. And so the approach was, they would paint 1 or 2 sides a year and choose, if you will, your worst sides, and plan on it taking 2 or 3 or 4 years to complete scrape and paint, not one fell swoop the entire building. And that is, again, part of a capital plan of just this building. What do we want to do? And try to spread it out, but actually get something accomplished.
I guess that's my point. If we're actually gonna do some work on it, and leave the 20 there, I don't have a problem with it. You just don't want all of a sudden, we get the end of the year and 20's there, because it goes away.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, well, it goes into fund balance unless
Yeah.
it's spent in other lines.
Well, and without a plan, I think that's a term, capital plan. Without a plan,
Right.
I think we, for now, that's fine, but we should look at that.
Right.
A plan, because
As a,
it's not gonna fix itself.
just speaking as a taxpayer, I'd much rather you do that, keep the 20 in there, or raise it to 25 and do one side of the building, then move it down to 3,000, and then come back in 2 years and tell me you want 60 to paint this
I
building.
just want to compare everyone, get up in front of the voter.
And raise
why you put
my
20 there,
taxes.
And we said we're gonna paint the building, and they come back, there's no way you're gonna paint it for 20.
No, our
Then
plan is,
basically what we're gonna say is we're gonna put 15,000 of it towards painting it, and if it doesn't get it done, we'll take another 15 or something. That's
Right.
fine. Can I ask,
So we'll leave that question as is for now then.
so,
Okay.
someone want to make a note that there's a capital plan to be done for the town hall and
We can,
spread over time?
we bounce that around too.
Yeah, because that's how we arrived at, over the course of 4 years, doing the 4 sides. And it's a huge number, it's
can I
35,000
ask a
bucks per
question
side.
that I know we're gonna be asked, so we can just address it, is line 158. This is not anything to do with whether the right amount is. I wanna make sure we're comfortable with the sheriff, with the ambulance, and with the rubbish. Those 3 things, because those are contracts. And obviously, I really believe we're gonna get nailed on the sheriff's question this year. You see what I'm saying?
I sure do.
And there was a lot of people that didn't even want to spend the 60,000 last time, right?
There was, yes, yeah.
And so the auditor specifically did ask on FY '22, you missed 2 months of paying the sheriff. And so it was explained that the sheriff basically gave you credit for hours that they never worked.
Right.
So that was explained. Where you are in '23, you're 50% through the year, but you're almost 75% through the budget.
The question is, when we get to a point, are we actually gonna just drop, when we get to the 60,000, we actually discussed it, like,
Dropping the service.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
do you, and this is a contractual question which I can't answer, what's the contract read for your ability to opt out,
it was contract so many hours,
period?
so it equals pretty close to.
So once they reach the hours,
They reached,
then they need authorization to charge any more for more hours.
correct, last I knew, that's correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
so,
But we're gonna be asked again every year, like, well, you've got 60 in there, or what's the sheriff, are you gonna reduce it, are you gonna increase it, or are we gonna stay the same? And we're gonna be asked at the
No
end.
question about it.
right, and the sheriff contract is annually renewable at a cost per hour.
Correct.
Yeah, the contract's been changed.
Is it
Originally
yearly or
was
is it?
like so many, like 40 hours, and then we reduced it, and then we reduced it.
Yeah, but each time you reduce, you may have to pay more per hour.
Correct, exactly.
Right.
We get less
Yes.
hours just in order to stay at that dollar amount.
Yeah, but his charge was increased as you decreased hours.
100%, yes.
Okay, so, I was just helping Putney, I believe.
We discussed it with Putney about sharing it, but they didn't have the amount of hours either.
No, we combined. So I want to say that there was an 8 or 9% increase in the rate, in the hourly rate for Putney for next year in the sheriff's contract. So with that in mind, if you're trying to level the budget, again, you'd be looking at in the new contract, even less hours.
The dollar amount's gonna be, there's gonna be voters get up and saying, what are you getting for $60,000?
But yes,
They're gonna be hitting it there.
That's what I was gonna say. If people are happy with the service for that dollar, I don't think it'd be an issue, but
They're not gonna be happy with spending 60,000, I can tell you that.
As a taxpayer, I would not.
Right. I mean, the ideal,
your
we never
contract.
seemed to get it done, was if we could come up with one full-time between Putney and us, and so let's say it's 90,000, I think we could sell the voters on that we got one full-time person, and we're gonna share it between, so ours is 45,
so you
theirs
both
is
have,
45.
a halftime.
There you go, exactly. To
but in
me,
close enough proximity that if you had something, you
Right.
needed somebody, they could be there and we don't get
there's
that.
times when they'd be working some days here and some days there, and we got a good relationship. If we could go to the sheriff's department and go, that's really what we want, one full-time person that can do both, and we share it, half and half. That we could sell them. We're gonna have a hard time selling $60,000 when we had such poor service all year. People are gonna say, put nothing.
Yeah.
So you're at unfortunately, a 7-day window to have a conversation with the sheriff over next year's contract.
I think you're right. I think,
I was born at night, but I wasn't last night.
Still
So-
7 days, still have a conversation.
Yeah, so I just think that somebody's got to broach that.
Yeah.
If you stuff 60 and have no plan, it's really not much different than 20,000 for building maintenance.
Can't ask him to the right meeting.
I can tell you from recent experience, you could call the animal control officer and have them at your house quicker
Yes.
than if somebody was breaking into your house. So if there's a stray dog in your yard, we have better protection from that than we do if somebody's breaking
Chuck,
into your
you only
house.
sound like all the voters, that's why I bring this up.
Yeah.
We're gonna
No,
get
no,
nailed
I'm
this
just-
year, and none of us here are happy
I'm
with the
just-
service.
No, we need to be
I'm not-
realistic about it.
Right.
I'm just letting you know that that's
Yeah.
E. Hollywood
But if
true
we come
story.
back and we're proactive and say, listen, this is what we're doing, we cut a deal for 32,000 this year, we're gonna try something new, we'd probably get along with it, but we stand there and we're asking for 6, they're gonna cut it to 0, is why.
Well, okay, let's revisit that discussion. The article reads an up or down total,
Right,
not a line item.
100%, but they're sending us a message if they cut 60 out.
Well, you know what, if the townspeople speak and they speak, and that's what it is.
That is what it is.
What he's saying is though, it's like, well, we don't have to take the 60 out because.
No, right.
But
Right.
still,
But
Yeah, I'm going along with you
if they
there.
change the total, you gotta go somewhere and take it.
on it, is there any way, Ally, that you could contact Karen and ask her?
Karen,
In Putney.
Ashley,
ask her what?
Is there a possibility we share a sheriff? Before we call the
You know, see
sheriff.
how many hours do they even have a sheriff? in
Right,
Putney?
what are they at, what are they gonna do?
He's in Putney every single day.
The last I knew, he wasn't full-time.
Well, then he's there every afternoon, every single afternoon.
Well, that's it, that's fine.
Well, let's see if we can contact Karen and see if Mark can be here for the 11th. And we'll either stick with what we got, or we'll
I just
adjust
think we
it
gotta
at that
be
time.
proactive with a plan that we're gonna go into the voters and like, cut it right off, this is what we're gonna do, and.
Yeah, and they still may say, no, thank you.
Yeah.
And if they do, they do.
Or we might say, no, thank you, before we get there.
How many hours you wanna share? We're supposed to be getting 20 hours now, which we're not getting. They say we are, but,
Just have a discussion with her and come back.
all right.
At a minimum, you can find out what they've got on their contract, it's public record.
Right,
What the rate is, how many hours are expected.
and how satisfied are they with the service?
can I just ask a question? So that $60,000 is 20 hours a week? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just know that that's, the other one is, one right there is ambulance. Does that, Ally, did we contact, is the ambulance contract for next year, looks like, we put the same dollar amount.
I don't
Which would be
believe,
the third year, we're under a 3-year contract with them? I can't remember.
they haven't sent anything in. The ambulance hasn't sent, I haven't seen anything for an increase.
My experience again in Rockingham, same number for 10 years.
That's great. The problem is, we have to talk about ambulance service this year.
Yes, we did.
Right, so
So,
I just want to make sure
Contract
that,
ending June 30?
Yep.
Again, to start a new contract for fiscal year '24. So again, who is it with?
Golden Cross?
Golden Cross,
So I'm gonna reach out to
Dale,
Dale Gerard, I think
Dale,
his
I
name.
think it is, yeah.
And
They've been stable, but I thought one time we signed a 3-year contract, is why I thought it stayed at that time.
Yeah, and that's why I'm asking, is the contract actually up or not up?
Right. I thought it was up, because that's why I thought we had a discussion with Rockingham, or what we had brought it here before, was why.
Yeah.
why
Well,
we're
they-
bringing it up.
Scott Pickup was gonna be here to speak on that
Right,
last week, at your meeting, and he wanted to know if we would share the Brattleboro service with Rockingham.
But
I
the
mean, I
only way
think the
that
price
people-
was gonna be like
Right.
quadrupled or something if we did.
right. And the only way we could do it would be at the end of a contract.
Right.
You know, so,
But Cole said he didn't have a problem with Golden Cross,
so I don't,
and he's the one who deals with them.
if it's still at 45,000, I'm happy with it, I'm happy with that.
So-
They've been real good.
see if you can
Golden
Yeah,
Cross.
I got it.
Golden Cross.
locate that existing contract, see if it ends. If it doesn't end, and it goes through '24,
Right.
we don't need the phone call, but we need the phone call if it is, or possibly has already ended. No. So that's an 11/11.
Yeah, it's not that I want to change, I just want to make sure that nothing is going to change.
You've got it.
And the other one is, on 187, those line items, we contacted Joe, and this was, we're gonna spend another whole year and get no increases at all. I mean, everybody knows rubbish is going up, recycling is going up, I guess, I
He
just want,
signed a contract, that was what, for,
it goes to
Three.
July. I don't know.
no, it was more than a year, I thought.
Which line is it again?
On 187, 188, and 189, they're Joe's
It
contract.
said in his contract how much it was gonna go up, percentage-wise.
Well, he was here not too long ago, and he didn't have any concerns or
No.
anything at that time.
So
I did-
look up that contract and see what it reads for,
Well, don't forget, he came to us in the middle of the year and asked, and we had to give him an increase, so I do remember that. We're on the recycling, that's why we were over budget.
I remember that as well.
Remember? And that's,
and that's on,
that was mostly on 188, I think the recycling went up,
disposal waste,
yeah.
disposing of waste? May
188, 187. I think 188 is what went up. Or, well, where's recycling?
I don't have any contact information because.
I have.
For material?
Yeah, I used to have this email, but I.
That's okay, just,
It's on-
I think I would look for the contract first,
I don't think.
and then depending upon when that contract ends or what it states, we can adjust the budget.
That'll work.
Or we gotta reach out to it.
5% increase or something.
Right.
Like it
But I
was a
didn't-
contract for 3 years, I think, and then it going up like 5%.
Well, I'm just thinking, I just think, I just think that one's gonna come in heavy, but we'd be speculating. I think that's gonna come in heavy, either way we look at it.
Yeah.
He kind of has a feel too, because it also goes by the tonnage, and he was saying that we're putting in more tonnage per
Right.
household. So I just want to make sure that that's a big contract that,
I'll call him tomorrow and I'll run it by him. I'll tell him we're looking at our budget, and if you would have any changes, you need to speak now.
right,
So
I'm a
we
little
can
nervous,
account
because
for that.
normally the town manager does call ahead of time and whatever, I just want to make sure
Well,
we're all set, that's all.
That's what it is.
Yeah,
I'm here,
Yeah.
so that's your clue.
We'll figure it out.
We're behind, we got a week to put together something.
all right.
So Ally's got on her list to find the contract.
I'm gonna go through the contracts for all of them,
Okay,
and then I won't have to reach out with a phone call.
100%.
If it ends June 30th of 23, then you have to reach out and say, what are we doing? Right?
Right.
Thank you, exactly, that's what. Since I'm still asking questions, one more, line 278, that's obviously a payment, that's why we went over. And the next, I don't believe, Chuck, we got a truck in for next year, but we also have a payment in there for next year. On line, so this would be line 278.
278, so you're in the highway.
Yeah,
I told in my email of the 29th,
we had a payment that didn't get put in the budget of 43,000. I think that's why it went from 175 to 213. We overspended that line item.
yes,
Now we're doing next year, and you would say, well, you're already gonna start out with another payment of 43,000, because you have one more payment.
so,
But if you're not purchasing a truck, is 175 still enough?
we have a truck due next year,
in the
truck
capital
number
plan?
6.
Then we need to adjust that line item on it.
Like
A heavy-duty truck or a little truck?
10-wheeler.
Another,
$190,000 truck.
I didn't know you had one, so I got.
And
But
I
our
gave
trades-
everybody a list of our schedules.
Yeah, I'm not, I just,
No, I know, but
if
yeah,
you're looking at this line item, we need to come back with that
So,
number, you know?
so on the 11th, we need to have that schedule of truck replacement, so again, not only looking at 24, but
Well, you're gonna be back to the, like, 215, because you're still gonna have a truck. It's not that the truck went up, it's still got another payment in there of 43.
right,
yeah.
So that
because
line
when we
item.
bought the backhoe, because,
Right, so you got one more year making that payment. And-
that's right,
And if you,
Every
I was thinking
December.
you didn't have a truck, so you could leave it there, but if you got a truck, then you're gonna need the
we
175.
got something, yeah, from now until every year. We don't have a year without something, either a
I
little
thought it was a
truck
year with pickup.
and a loader, yeah.
Yeah, your pickups are included in that.
Yeah,
Anyway.
So I did describe in the email of the 29th that the highway transfer to the equipment fund, there is showing there a purchase and a debt payment. Traditionally, you would transfer to the highway equipment reserve $175,000, make your purchase and your debt payments from that fund. Again, with the intent that annually you contribute a set number, and then some years you spend that, and some years you don't, so that the next time you want to buy, your equipment fund reserve has money in it.
Right,
And you're leveling how much you constantly put away and how much you're using, and that's where that schedule would show. That number that's in there may need to be a $200,000 number, so that you know that the year that you come up to a grader, you have built up 20, $12,000 to $25,000
right,
of unspent contributions so that when the grader comes up, the $200,000 grader is covered, still with 175 coming in, because you've already got the money that you need over and above for that grader set aside.
I was gonna bring it, you probably should have 200 in there, but you got that loan in there.
So it
Right.
really needs to be more like 250.
Well,
Well,
If
basically,
we'd been doing this right along, we wouldn't have had the loan. So that's, right,
yeah, you gotta get up from underneath debt to then be paying, if you will, cash.
right,
Um,
so,
But like I said, the pattern has always been, the money moves and the debt and purchase is made from the reserve fund, not in your operating, if you will. Your operating is a constant give to the equipment reserve account, and it makes debt payments and it makes purchases. So as I described, in the current 23, you're over the 213, but you didn't contribute anything to your reserve, which is how that account's actually listed. It's a transfer to the equipment reserve.
but we also took it away from an article where it had to be spent. Now it's, how does that work? Do you still have to spend that money? Or is because even though it's a line item, not an article, that you can still actually, let's say we only spent 150, we can still carry the 25 over on like a regular line item.
So was the article distinct, 175,000 transfer to the equipment
We did
reserve?
away with the article last time. This is no longer an article.
So in 23, you no longer had an article, it's just in there.
Correct. It just, we just said, the heck with it, let's just go to the bottom line.
Okay,
Right.
so it was presented within your budget and labeled as a transfer to the equipment fund.
right.
So that's why it said on the 11th, you can decide, do you want to move this and show your equipment fund in a deficit of 39,000? Do you want to have this roll into your highway fund as a contribution to a deficit, should there be one, of 39,000? It's an aggregate number that'll land there, but this line is over by, the 43. So either way, you've broken the method in 2022 and before, and now 2023 moving forward. If the goal is you're gonna do direct capital purchasing, then in theory, you close the equipment fund, because you're not setting anything aside in there anymore,
That's where I was falling. In other words,
okay?
if the
So-
175 and we don't spend it, then we can't carry it over. But if it's actually in a fund,
It's designed in your budget, and it reads transfer to equipment fund.
then we can't.
So your plan was to transfer it to that fund. You're not lying, because you also have a line that says transfer to the bridge fund,
Right.
right? And so it's an accounting function, not actually a cash transaction, to put it over there and then to buy things out of that fund, make debt payments out of that other
So we
fund.
basically did it the right way.
So, no, not in 23. Not in 23. So that's why my suggestion is that you actually say, let's move all of this expense over to the equipment fund. Then let's transfer what we budgeted, 175,000, to that equipment fund. So it looked like we did what the budget described we were going to do. And the equipment fund is in deficit, 39,000 bucks. And it's a known. We normally paid it out of that fund, and we failed to contribute to the fund to pay it. So the next time we transfer, though we say we're transferring 175, we're netting out the 39 that we're actually in debt. And that's why if we are buying a new truck, and we're making a $43,000 payment, and we started 39 in the hole, now what should we contribute?
You're gonna have to be 225. I'm just guessing. 'Cause
So-
you got the-
Well, I don't disagree, yeah.
Yeah.
With all that stuff, the paving, the bridges, all of it, we're way behind the 8 ball. Have been,
There's no question, you're
Yeah.
good there.
so, yeah, I agree.
And so,
Yeah, you ought to be 230 only, just,
so as we were discussing, if you're going to 230,
yeah.
45,000 bucks at 28,000.
Because then the next year won't look so bad because we won't have that 43,000.
Well, depends again what you do with the 43 this year that you charged here as an expense, which traditionally was an equipment fund expense. Yeah, it's a 6 and a half dozen the other. The auditor would prefer, just like we did with peanut, they would prefer that you just let that fund go into deficit, cover it the ensuing year. But that does require, like you said, 200,000 plus to go in next year to do what our plan is to buy a truck and to make a debt payment. And then the following year, for buying a truck again, do we then need $230,000?
Shouldn't for a truck, but there's a question of what else is.
So
Yeah.
that's where the debt schedule and a plan laid out. You try to level fund that contribution so that when you come to the big ticket item, you're still putting in the same amount, asking the taxpayers for the same amount, but you already have in reserve the difference of what you're contributing plus what you need to buy. And it's the payloaders and the
Graders
grader
and
that,
The big money item.
those are longer lasting, 10 or 12-year items versus a truck maybe 5 or 7 years. Depends on whatever your replacement plan is.
Did you have a question?
Best if you speak to that.
Yep.
Right, the town meeting, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah, there's no problem.
fantastic.
And that's where the replacement plan, I tried to put the replacement plan in for fire equipment, the replacement plan for highway equipment, whatever we might have had for capital plan for the building, and try to lay these things out. Here's our projections. And that's the best you can do is say, I know the truck I just bought in 7 years I'm gonna replace. I'm projecting out through 2032, 10 years out. This is what I think I'm gonna be replacing, something I'm buying today.
I've done a lot of 7 years to a lot of towns now where they
Yeah.
might only have 3 or 4 trucks, but they're on a 7-year trade cycle. All of them are, they all got 7 years warranty. I
Yep.
don't think I got a town left that isn't on that where I've given her a pre-buy, like,
Yep.
this is what, I don't know 100% what it's gonna cost, but this is what your vehicle is gonna be worth in 7 years compared to, so you get some idea. So they got,
Yep.
so they're shooting ahead 7 years to know that in 7 years, we got 3 trucks, but this is the year we're gonna do it. So, yeah.
Right, but with what Will's explaining at town meeting, I think if,
He would have to explain what he's actually getting.
well, I think if we explain clearly to the taxpayers, we're on TV right now, that this is the schedule, this is what we need it
Sure.
for, and you can express explicitly too, what comes up as to why this is imperative that we do this, that we
Right.
spend this money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, in 2011, the newest truck I had,
Mhm.
when I was manager in Rockingham, I wasn't manager, I was a contract finance director. The newest truck I had was a 2006. That was my frontline truck. In 2011 for Irene. Yeah,
No, I agree, but I think Chuck can really express,
Yeah.
what goes on down there, why it's imperative that we do it, why it's important that we continue to do this scheduling process.
Let's get Millie's question in.
Okay, I just am trying to, Craig asked about this at the last meeting. He asked where the $43,000 payment was for, because there was one more payment left to make. You said it was a transfer from the equipment fund.
so,
I'm trying to write this, so this 175,000 that was budgeted, and you've
Yes.
spent now 213, that deficit is about that payment, is that what you're saying?
is, yes, in part due to that $43,000 payment, but.
You got it.
Thank you.
Yes, but.
Yeah, no, I don't want the buts.
No. What's important here, again, is that the purchase of a truck was charged to a line that reads transferred to equipment. So the intention by the description is different than what happened in this account. And that historically, the purchase of a truck and the debt payment were paid by the equipment fund.
Okay,
So the transfer was the intention, and the purpose of this funding these resource reserve funds is to try to create stability in a budget so that you don't get hit with a $212,000 grader in 1 year, and the next year you don't need to buy anything, so the whole line disappears.
So
That's what you
Chip,
want
you're
to
gonna come
avoid.
back to us fixing those line items, but put in 230 if we agree as a board? Is that what you're gonna do?
Yes, we can make those adjustments for '23, and the number you feel that needs to be transferred in to the equipment fund. Now,
I'm talking
realizing-
about the budget number that we're going for 24.
for 24, okay? If you are transferring in to buy a truck and to make a debt payment
We need 230 in there.
and to cover the $39,000 deficit from this year's payment.
No, I didn't understand that.
Yeah, that's, yeah. Didn't get that piece, did you?
Yeah.
So, your equipment fund, and I didn't bring them, but I probably have them.
I am getting confused, because right now, we deficit spend it, which is true, but we spend it in 23, but you're saying take 23 and put it in 24, plus put 24 in there?
Well, if we move the 213,000 to the equipment fund, and that includes paying a bill that the equipment fund doesn't have enough money for. And I'm headed to the balance sheets that I emailed you on the 29th.
And I thought that's what you were talking about, the 200,000 that you were gonna offset it with.
No, we've got -39 and 43 to go.
Correct.
And a new truck.
That's right.
But it's 2 different years. Now, we got a -23 in year 2023, now we're talking about 24. So if you're saying to take the negative and put it over to 24, plus make it 24, is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, that your contribution in 24 is gonna cover your deficit from 23, plus what you're buying in 23 and paying.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm trying to understand this.
Right.
Yeah.
Kevin, following
No,
that?
I got it, I'm good.
You're good.
I'm just pointing out that, you know,
Yeah.
you might get some blowback, I think, that's all.
You
So,
gotta sell it.
Yeah,
so, again.
that's all I'm,
Yeah, an option you have is to leave the line just the way it is in the highway budget in 23.
That's what I
It's
was
over-
almost
It's
going on.
overspent, we didn't transfer it to the highway fund, and next year, we're planning on,
That's where I'm coming from.
Sure.
It's basically get up to, hey, I'm sorry, I went over on this budget line, what do you want to do? We're still not borrowing the money, because we still had enough money, you see what I'm saying?
yes,
And then we over there, but we didn't overspend on some other line item in 23. So just to get done 23, we're done with it, and let's go to 24 and only take the 39, or the 43, I'm sorry.
we'll take the 43 plus the 175.
Right,
The
or
debt payment,
just put, which I came up with 230 because it could be a little more, so.
yeah,
So the 230 would cover the $43,000 payment,
plus buying a truck.
plus buy a new truck.
I got all that. Actually, well, we do have, we don't have to decide tonight. but-
No,
Yeah.
but on the 11th, we have to. you
No, I
have
got
to
it.
Fix
If he
that.
comes back and we can see it, I want to see it before I approve.
No, I got it.
Yeah, so, yeah.
So- So based upon the discussion we just had,
We just increased our taxes again.
yes, the answer is every 28,000 is a penny. So changing that
Good.
line from 175 to 230 as a transfer to the equipment fund, in which from that fund, we buy the truck and we make the debt payment, which we have done in the past, except in the present year. So here's the fun part of all of this, is typically you have presented 22 audited, 23's budget, but not year-to-date, 24's budget. So the current year 23 is not done and not being reported in the town report.
No, but that's my whole point, nobody would know we overspent on that line item.
Right, until you get to 25's budget, looking at 23 for comparison. So
Well, they know
that's,
now.
we're always, we're always in an offset.
Yeah.
But that's why, and quite frankly, this year, if you run a surplus in general or highway, either one, hallelujah, because I
Yeah,
don't think
because
it's
of cost,
happening.
right? No, we're being transparent right now.
Yeah.
Do it.
So my take would be to not do any transfers around and leave the equipment fund in deficit. Eat it in the present year as you,
That's why I love it,
Already
that's
are.
just me speaking, that's why I
and
love it.
then
Yeah.
plan 230 with the purpose of a debt payment and a new truck in 24.
Correct.
Seems to make the most sense.
It does.
Okay,
But then we graduate.
Well,
easier to follow
You think
anyway.
so? That's why.
I'm still confused with how we got here, but it seems to make sense.
it seems, well, it's your.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So there are gonna be less questions about that than this.
Because you have, and if we do 79 and 80, 279, 280, you have 15,000 going to the transfer to the bridge fund, that's line 279.
Oh, yeah.
135 going into transfer to retreatment. Those are distinct other funds.
So,
Those numbers have been uniform for years. And they may have been separate articles through 22, but now they're just part of your budget. And in those cases, in 23, we had yet to make the entry to move the 15,000 or the 135. But once that's done, the balance sheets I gave you are only going to increase by that amount of money. But you haven't done spring paving retreatment yet, right?
so what we
For
were,
23.
so my question is, we were gonna wait but it's not called a fund. So are we gonna lose this 135?
No,
Okay,
because in the balance sheets, again, that I had sent, let me go find it.
But it stays in that line
Transfer
item,
to
right?
retreatment, so whenever it says that.
No, we transfer it to
Because it's coming from.
the
from
retreatment
the
fund, which right now sits with $166,073.50.
Can you repeat that? That's what the retreatment fund has right now?
Right.
Sitting in it right now, 166,073.50.
So, right,
And so annually you contribute 135.
which has not been moved as of today.
And so increase that number by 135. And by June 30th, you have that much
Yeah.
that you can spend without going into deficit.
change,
Yeah,
195, whatever it is.
You know, so follow those numbers from the balance sheets that I sent you on the 29th. Again, 166 plus
135.
135,
301.
you know, there's quite a bit of cash in there, but it won't take long
No,
to
no,
run a
right,
paper and burn that right out.
Quarter mile.
But the following year, if you do spend all of that, you're just gonna have 135 in '24.
Right.
So that's where what's our paving plan for multiple years? We'd like to continually contribute, but some years don't spend it all, and other years spend it all.
Yeah.
Hey Chuck, we had a huge increase in payment this year. I'm just curious, are they forecasting another big increase next year, but the price of oil going on, or is it gonna stay stable? You don't know?
They only held the price of asphalt for 30 days.
that's right. It goes up every 30 days.
Right. It took some big jumps though, but.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The raw materials don't get mixed until they get mixed.
Right. Which was why, because the budget was pushed back to the April meeting and whatever, it was too late to throw.
So that's right.
That's why we held on and said, we're just gonna go.
We're hoping it was gonna stabilize a little bit before we did anything, so we had a better feel for.
But if we learned anything last time when we actually delayed it from one year and went into spring, and then all of a sudden they're looking for work in the spring. Sometimes
Right.
they give us a better deal in the spring to go pave in the spring.
Yeah, no, we haven't found that in years. Usually, if by now, if I haven't got it out,
You aren't gonna get somebody by June 30.
no, that's exactly
No,
right.
you won't.
If you could, you probably don't want them anyway.
That's right.
And we won't name them. So that's those three lines, again, same purpose, to try to create an even keel of how much you contribute to the reserves, and then do the purchasing out of reserves in a planned increment. Like I said, if you always give 135 and 1 year you don't pay, well, your paving schedule is all screwed up because of the RSMS. So, right.
Which we need to update.
Yeah. So, those are, again, numbers that have been carried. Again, they may have been separate articles in 22, 23, you didn't do that. So I'm guessing in 24, you're not gonna do that.
I like this report, though, along with
This is so much easier to
Yeah,
follow.
it really is.
Yes.
Having those numbers on the left side really help.
Yeah, the spreadsheet row numbers, yep.
Anything else?
I can go and have a cookie.
No, boy,
I'm sorry, there's something stronger than a cookie.
That was all the hard work.
So our homework as a board is to continue to kind of comb through this. I'll call over Jerry O's and see if
We didn't need to come back with the.
there's
sheriff.
anything that's gonna change on their end that they think, are anticipating. You were gonna look into the sheriff's department?
I'm gonna look at the contract for Golden Cross.
All right.
I was gonna look for a contract for Gerald. And I was also gonna, but if you wanna do that, you do that.
Oh, you can look the contract,
And then
I'll just call them and
I'll-
tell them that we're in a budget and
Right.
speak now.
And-
We got a week,
Yeah,
Mark Anderson called me today and I didn't have a chance to call him back.
Okay.
sheriff,
Yeah.
and then ambulance contracts.
Yeah.
So, right now, with the changes as we plug them in, the estimated tax rate, unfortunately for you, went up 2 cents, but you would have expected that, because you added 50 grand to one line, basically. Again, revisiting just what we had started with, manager salary at 73, finance director at 56,160. Those are numbers that were already in there, zoning at 21,000, I believe it might have been 18,000 in the prior year. The salaries in general were treated at the Social Security COLA of 8.7% in
Yep.
this budget. In the activity relative to 23, specific to Ally, I'm just suggesting we continue to pay her out of the town manager salary line, in that she's the acting town manager no matter what else she's doing. And at some point, should you hire a town manager, then we will address where to charge her to then.
But it's gonna be in the budget?
It won't be in the 23 budget.
No.
And it's, right now, there's not a line designated for that position in the 24 budget, but there is the finance director line, which may or may not be changed to a different title. It's in, I think that's under treasurer though, isn't it?
No, you got
No, there's a financial officer.
financial officer,
Yeah.
that's the amount of my salary.
Yeah, and that is that within select board or under?
That's line 72.
Yeah.
But, I'm also zoning, so that,
I thought, like I say, between the zoning, between the finance and between the town manager, I thought we had enough money in there to move around that we would end up with what we wanted.
right, because eventually I'm gonna be an admin to the listers.
Right.
So, we just titled the position as catch-all.
Yeah.
And subtitle catch-all. So zoning, I was trying to find that.
Oh, zoning, you want the number?
It's
Oh, please.
relevant zoning,
Zoning.
21,000. So in 23,
Well,
you had 18,910 as the budget, nothing spent. This was also a question by the auditors because of the technique of using the manager budget to a point and then journal entering some total into zoning based on the random number generator that was being used. So in the 24 budget, is it the intention to just straight out say X amount bi-weekly for zoning, X amount bi-weekly or finance director, which may get renamed to Yeah, we just changed the title on the account, under the executive. Instead of saying finance director, say
She's
it's
had so
assistant
many titles,
manager.
she don't know. As long as you give her a check at the end of the week, that's all she gets.
And don't worry, she signs her own.
You're right, yeah.
I do not, that's not a true statement.
That's on TV
Cassandra
too.
signed
Yeah.
the checks.
All right,
Yeah.
just checking, because I know that happens a lot.
Chip, you know, this is the thing that's been bothering me the most, is line item 4 is always every year, I never could figure this one out. How do you feel about line item 4?
Delinquent property taxes, so.
We'll always way underestimate that one.
Yes, so we discussed this again a week ago,
Right.
is that delinquent property taxes get booked into the revenue line for delinquent taxes the day after they're due on the second installment. And so though you may have budgeted to collect them in a fiscal year that ends June 30, once they're late and paid after February 10th of the second installment, the system is calling that revenue delinquent property taxes because the year has gone delinquent in terms of taxes, but the fiscal year hasn't. And so that's why that one always appears over, but on the contra is property taxes that are current are never collected to 100%.
So to answer your question, you're comfortable with that 80,000? Because I didn't pick 80,000. I got no idea what to put there.
Well, you know, if you look at 22's actuals, you know, $438,945.
Well, look at what 23 is so far.
But when you look at property taxes actual for the general fund, you collected less than 200,000 of 776 on time.
But look at 23.
Yeah, 23, we're only halfway through the year.
Right, but look how much we got already, and it's like, it does look, whatever.
And that's all from years prior. So, and here's the bugaboo. We don't know what the number is going to be for uncollected taxes June 30 of 23. And so we project what we think it's going to be in order to collect for 24. But we also then want to project what we're going to collect late, that is 24 taxes. Because if we do, then we're going to be putting it in two places: property taxes paid on time and property taxes paid delinquent. So that's where you target off and say, okay, on average, we collect 80,000.
Okay.
Maybe in 24, if we look at where we stand, we alter that number. But in the next 7 days, I don't see us changing that number.
No, I'm fine, that number is nothing that, as a select person, I've been here for a long time, I can never come up with that number. I got no idea where that, where that comes from.
On a cash basis,
Right.
it shows as revenue, but on an accrual basis, delinquent taxes don't appear in revenue.
Because you're always collecting,
They're always.
you're always collecting prior money for current and forward year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's all on a balance sheet as a
Yeah.
receivable. You never see revenue
Nope.
for it.
I just know that we've had several people in town that get up every year and going like, you're way under doing that line item. And
it's-
some of
But
them were,
he just
he did explain it. Yeah.
you know, on that, and that's perfect. It's just money that comes in at a certain time, and always in the forward year, we are collecting something that we should have collected years prior.
Yes.
Sometimes more than 1 year prior.
Oh, many times.
Correct, so,
You hold a tax sale and you can collect 12 years worth of taxes then on a cash basis.
And I was always nervous because we had to pay the school no matter what in the fire department.
Yes.
So if
Yes.
if we tried to say that's all our money.
Yes,
Delinquent tax is all our money.
yes.
It's not belongs to the school, it doesn't belong to the fire, it only belongs to us. So yes, I'd rather be conservative on that number, I don't have a problem. I
Yeah.
don't know where to come up with that
So,
number.
and I'm gonna extend your comment of we always have to pay the fire department, we always have to pay the school. The highway will be given credit for 100% of its property tax dollars every year. It doesn't have any delinquencies to collect. Highway is treated just like school, it gets its money. Any of the transfers to reserves, no matter what fund they're in, those transfers should take place regardless of whether you collected the money. So the general fund is the one who suffers all losses, but gains all the benefit of the interest and penalties charged, no one else.
That makes sense, actually, yeah.
Okay?
You, well, you
That's
just
how it works.
explained it, yeah.
And
We
on
do
a cash
get-
basis, that's how that works.
That's right.
On an accrual basis, the same thing holds true, other than the general fund also gets credit for whatever is left after everybody else is paid, as if it's revenue, and the receivables on the balance sheet. And you stepped away from that, I think, in '21, from modified accrual to being just cash oriented.
Very well done, thank you. This is very well done.
Appreciate it.
Thank you
So-
for your help.
Yeah, really.
It is so much easier, I've said it 3 times at least, so much easier to follow. This is not my thing, and I can follow it so much better than the other one, so I'm happy.
No, I think we're heading down a good road.
And I think the biggest difference was the spreadsheet you originally were given, it was the old style chart of accounts and budgeting. And I'm sorry, that was the whole point of this breaking out the highway fund, trying to be clearer of what we are and where we are. So I guess on a recap of, for the 11th, we have a series of contracts Ally's got to review to have answers for us. I will take the working budget column that I've got now and regenerate in PDF form to email to Ally to then get back out to you. So you can see what last page was. The articles for next week, for the warning, I think, started communicating with Ally on that. With the option, and you need to decide next week, but if you are inclined to have by request 200,000 brought back from the FEMA storm fund balance into FY '24 to contribute to reduce the tax burden.
Why we?
Why you wouldn't, I don't know why you wouldn't.
Okay.
And that effectively will more than offset what you've done with your highway equipment contribution. Because then the amount you're gonna raise for highway, instead of being 1.212, is more like 1.012. So I will add that in my worksheet as if the plan is to bring back from FEMA storm, and that is a separate article. Because it was voted separately to send it there, we need to vote separately to bring it back.
So it'll be written up in the town report. That we go to-
The warning, I'm hoping that we can nail down something with the warning for next week.
Great.
We may or may not have the school. If we don't have the school, it's the if so, how much type of warning. And I've reached out, I think both of us have reached out to Katie Dearborn for fire district number 3, because that's a warned part of the warning and what their numbers are going to be.
Unfortunately, they said they weren't meeting till the 12th.
So what I got was I'll reach out and see if we're finalized.
Okay, good.
Because, we're up against a 45-day notice that's required, and Kelly's got to put together a book, and my concept is, at this point, with what we've done on these wide pages. Again, typically, I think in the town report, you do not show FY '23 year-to-date.
Correct.
And that the working budget will become the FY '24 proposed budget, intact with all items as if all articles pass.
Will there be 4 line items or 5? I'm a little confused, 4, right?
It'd be 22 budget, 22 actual, 23 budget, proposed 24 budget.
Right.
And if we leave it, in this format, the account numbers, the rows, the columns,
It's gonna be easier for us even at the meeting if it was in this way, to be honest with you, but.
I,
It really would.
If
yes,
somebody references line, whatever, you'll find it just like that.
yes, that's.
I think it's
and-
very,
You spent half the
so
time
nice.
sitting there trying to figure out what they're talking about.
Yes. And that was in part what I was thinking, because if I asked you to spit out this 3422 account number, you wouldn't be able to find it. Well, you say, hey, here's the line number I'm on, everybody knows where to go.
Yeah. But Jeff, hold on, okay.
I have, I just for FYI, there's something wrong with my printer in the treasurer's office. I'm getting, there's a word for it, I'm not an IT person, but any attachment that I get and try to print, it's encrypted. So, anything that I was trying to do with the auditors yesterday to download a PDF type file from the GL, when I sent it to them, it was encrypted.
Okay.
We don't know why.
Weird.
We don't know why, but I had to go from one IT guy, I have to go to a next level guy.
Did you try unplugging it and slapping it?
I did. And
It's not
Some
a
suggest
television.
not have.
so what I,
That's not gonna work.
Kelly is not in for the next 2 days, but I will be working at her computer. So you can reach me at assistant.
Yeah.
I'm all over the place. Yep.
Well, I was hoping you were gonna sit in the lister's office, but guess not.
Okay. I can if you want.
You can bounce back and forth.
Right.
Get a chair with wheels on it.
Right.
Yes, all right, so before I guess we get done, I want to go find. And this transfer into highway is, basically, it's a one-time ability. And in part, it would be as if you hadn't transferred 200,000 out in '22, it would be as if you were using fund balance from '22. Because,
But you're gonna write the article the way we're gonna read it, so it'll be like to move
so it'd
money.
be absolutely confusing, yes.
Right. You're gonna move money from it's really from the storm? Is it really?
Yeah, FEMA Storm Fund,
Okay,
whatever term we used in the voter approval to send it out, we'll use the same terms but in opposite direction,
okay,
okay?
yep, that sounds good to me.
And ultimately, if we have the warning done, I don't know if you folks traditionally would pass it by council before you adopt it,
No,
just to have Larry Slation look at it and say, yeah,
We
this
always
is worded
do.
correctly?
We always do.
Okay,
yeah, we say
So-
worded, yeah.
so between now and by the time we meet, we should codify it, have Larry look it over, because the board got on the 11th, we're hoping can approve and sign. And so I'm gonna assume I'm gonna be back here on that day to further explain whatever it is we reach at that time. That's for finest.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, kind of working under duress, but in the end, if you get a thorough picture, that's what we're trying to achieve.
Oh, my gosh.
And I've always said it's a BWAG to do a budget. So I'm gonna find a place to plug in 200,000 coming in to the highway. And then we'll codify the spreadsheet and get it sent to you. Now, I have 3 email addresses, but I can send it to
Have
you.
mine.
I do?
Yeah, but what we'll do is
I'll
send
get
it
it to,
Yeah.
I'll get it
And
to
I'll
her as a
send it to
PDF,
the
so
other
can
two.
forward it to you folks.
Yeah.
And, you know, from my standpoint, that's all I have that I need to do.
All right.
And then I'll just work with Ally, and I'm sure I'll hear from Chad, and we'll continue to assist any way I can with those two. And plan on being back here a week from today.
Very good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
So would it be safe to say we haven't been reimbursed by grants and aid, or,
Would be safe to say,
because that would be here with probably the FEMA's, the USDA and the passive grant and all that. We had a couple other grants that I hadn't heard back yet, whether or not we got paid for, and no one really is sure. So I was just curious.
so,
Everything goes to the managers. I have no idea.
so In '23,
Right.
state aid to highways, you only had 2.
No, yeah, no, this, not state aid, but,
Okay.
it would have been, 2 grants. One would have been a Better Roads grant, and the other one would have been, grants and aid.
So you did get what I understood to be 93 from USDA Piggery Road.
That's right. Yep, it's separate.
You had a passive grant for revenue, probably for equipment.
Yep, for safety equipment, that's right.
And the auditor's question that we treated 63,000 transferring from the garage fund, which I interpreted to be to help offset the 78,000 for the tank removal, or was it not for that?
Should have been.
No,
Okay, so what was the plan for the 63 coming
Yeah,
back?
that's why I put it in.
From the garage fund to the operating to serve some purpose?
63.
Yep, I
you'd
transferred
been
that
putting,
to you already.
what?
I transferred the 63 to you per chip.
Yeah, the budget called for it, so.
Right, because you guys have been putting it into a garage reserve fund.
So,
I thought it was the only thing we were spending was the tank.
That was its own.
No, that was at its own.
It was on.
That was its own line item, separate thing.
so within your 23 budget that was presented, there was 63,000 labeled as, and this is on line 208. And we're talking 23. So 23 budget, 23 year-to-date. The budget included $63,000 to transfer in from the garage.
Right, into the garage fund.
No, in from.
In from the garage fund.
Yes, it's a revenue line that was budgeted. Maybe it was not supposed to be, I don't know the
I have
answer
no
to the
idea.
question. But the way it was put in was a transfer in from. There is not a transfer out.
In
There's
from
a
the
transfer
garage
to
fund.
equipment, to bridge, to retreatment, but no transfer to a garage fund.
I just saw that there and I was.
Should have been
questioning
2.
what-
Yeah, yeah, I didn't, right,
I thought, when I saw that,
Garage
was something, I couldn't remember, the voters approved to move it to help offset cost of a, I don't know what it was for.
So,
Did you get together with him and find out?
well, it's, look at last year's town report.
Yeah.
See if what was presented was 23, for 23's budget, was presented as a transfer in from the garage. I'm saying that. I remember we went through this exercise, we had 3 different numbers between the town report, the finances, and a spreadsheet. And if it's in here as transfer in, that's the last thing I saw it as. I moved the money, and maybe in fact it shouldn't be moved in the entry I gave you, because we really didn't intend to do that. I don't know
you
the
started a
answer.
garage fund back when you started
I don't know, Chuck.
talking about insulating, and then we talked about,
Yeah.
we had a special
Yes.
meeting up there, and we
But
talked about
normally
doing
when I saw
work.
that
and-
lineup, it was something the voters asked us to move, and that's.
No,
why-
I thought it was into, I didn't read it, I guess I read the extra in the garage fund, but in from.
Yeah. And in building maintenance, which is under equipment buildings, you only have 12,000 in 23 budgeted, if you will, for repairs.
Right,
So if that was intended to come in and go out to repairs, as opposed to the repairs just being out of the reserve garage fund.
well, we started saving towards, we're gonna have some replacement, right?
So I would say then, I've gone through the 23 budget so many times, and my last interpretation was 63,000 coming from garage fund. And if that was meant to be 2, I don't think it was presented to the voters that way. And so you would have shied yourself raising the 63 to move it to the other way. Instead, you'd be off 126,000 if you wanted to go the other way with it.
Yeah, but why would you ever,
Well, you oftentimes, for transparency, if you're gonna do a major renovation project,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you had it in reserves, there are towns that will transfer back from reserve into the operating budget to do a project and show it as part of the cash
You can
flow
see it.
in operating.
Well, we've never,
And that's not what I would recommend, because I want to try to create a budget that you see incremental increases instead of steep ups and downs,
right,
because you did or didn't on a cash basis do something.
Well, then I have a question. Line 239,
Contractual services,
151,000, what's that for?
so what happened was, because we did all these grants, so we've got a big culvert that I was just asking about, got replaced down on Windmill Hill South, and, at the time, we did not have a line item for the USDA. All that work
That's what I call it.
got put onto, so we had something to code it to,
contracted services?
So it's gotta be
contracted
moved
services.
It'd be
So
like
it's
a
been-
bid or
It's
something
gotta be
else.
sorted out.
It's gotta
and
be moved
charged.
around. Yeah.
So since then, and that's why I
Well, we
was
used to see
asking,
stuff like that, but we saw a big revenue coming in to match it somewhere, and that's why I was looking at it going like, this is
Yeah.
a.
right, but that's why that
Well,
happened,
Yeah, the USDA is 93 in with no budget,
right,
and 151 is under contracted services, planned to be spent. We're only showing 10,000 spent. Is it conceivable the entire project actually was completed before June 30th of '22? And so it's actually an expense that is in '22, the reimbursement in '23, but the budget for the expense is in '23.
Right.
I'm guessing, and if so, that's sort of a saving grace that can help you get back to a surplus, because this line doesn't have any more to go against it.
So the 151 is really, even though we charged it there, we've actually already paid it.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but yes, I mean, you got reimbursed. But
That's why I kept thinking when I saw it there, normally some places the revenue coming in to offset it. That's why, like a
Yes.
grant or something, you saw the expenditure, but you get the grant money
And
to
that's-
In this
offset it.
case, we have the budgeted expense with no expense for 10 grand.
Right.
So,
So you could come back to us next week with all this stuff fixed.
no. Because I
So-
can't, I don't know all the stuff that needs fixing. But that's, I did a proposal to say, preparing for the '22 audit. This level of detail is what it takes. You just gotta sit down and read financials and say, oh crap, and get the detail, figure out what actually happened, go back all in the invoice if you need to, and say, we should reclassify this.
so I will get a hold of the state and see if they did in fact reimburse us for those grants and see,
When did you do the work? Who did you pay? Let's find out whether it was '22's expense or '23's expense for fiscal year. If it was done before June 30, but paid after June 30, it's a '23 expense.
right,
But if it was actually
Right,
done
it's
and
a-
paid before the budget year it was even expected to happen,
right,
then '22 shows an expense. But on this line right now, for '22, your actual is 10,435, and your budget was 10,000. So maybe you never got,
right.
maybe you never got an invoice. I'm not thinking that would make sense.
Right.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, I'm in the wrong column. So you budgeted 7,000, spent 151.
Right,
Yeah, so you got the bill, oh, absolutely. But you only brought in, at least right now on the revenue side, you got 93 for USDA Piggery Road. And
Could that be the bridge?
nothing
East
else.
Brook Road Bridge, part of that?
oh, part of that, yep, we got reimbursed from that.
That'd be $100,000.
We should've got $100,000 back from ARPA.
Oh, okay. So,
That's not in here,
Right.
and those other ones were done after,
that was coded to ARPA though, wasn't it?
the bridge?
That one bridge, the $100,000 bridge was coded to ARPA, wasn't it? When you paid
We
it?
gotta look. So, the deal's still open.
well,
I mean,
Because
it's
Kelly,
still-
me and Kelly, I
it
remember
did
this.
not get coded from from me because I
No.
turned the bill in because I wasn't sure.
Because Kelly and I had this conversation, and she said, where am I supposed to pay this from? I go, that's the APRA approved bridge, the one that the town owns, right?
Right.
Right, $100,000.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So ARPA paid that.
So Basin Brothers, 124,000 even?
That was, right.
Is that the bridge?
No, that was,
Piggery.
that was Piggery.
That's bigger.
And
Okay.
with our, so that we got reimbursed, but we had to have our match,
Okay. So
so.
that's the big ticket in that line for 124. There's another one
Right.
for Bill Harlow in
That's right, that's the Better Roads grant that I'm talking about.
25,475.
Yep,
8. Wyndham Regional Match, 775.34. Russell Tree, probably just a side project unrelated to take trees down.
yep,
And Westminster East, could be a longer name than that, for $425. Those are all under contracted services. It sounds like the Better Back Roads grant reimbursement had not come through, because all we see is 93 relative to the 124.
okay.
So,
Or grants and aid, we had another project that, well, that wouldn't have come through with this, but unrelated to contracted services, we had another grant that, grants and aid that should have came in too,
Yeah.
for work that we did ourselves.
Yep.
So,
typically ditching side road, 7-inch
that's,
stone,
yeah,
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 okay.
so,
So tell me more about the bridge and ARPA money. That was charged directly to the ARPA fund. And so it's a direct expense out of ARPA, not in your budget for highway. Okay. Not even gonna go look for it.
Nope.
But there's no match amount for that
No,
100,000.
no, that
It's
was-
a direct spend.
yeah,
Okay. So if in all the extra time you have at home, sitting around just gazing and perusing over this page, if you have questions beyond tonight, line number, what your question is, rifle it off to Ally, because she needs to be in the loop over whatever we're trying to derive at for an answer. We at Nimerick are in our busiest time of year with support. It's calendar year, closed, payroll issues, AP issues. For some people, fiscal year change. So I'm fairly busy all day long as well as working through this. I will have out, again tomorrow, the revised spreadsheet in PDF to Ally to get back to you. And I will be adding a transferring of 200,000 from the FEMA storm. And between us, we'll work on the warning and try to get that language down.
And would it be easier for you folks, for me to copy all these so you can come pick them up instead of just going through your computer? Or can you print them at home? I mean, would it be, whatever's easiest, just gotta let me know.
We should be able, I'll come pick it up, because I'm right here.
So,
Same with me, because when I print it, it somehow might sometimes,
all right,
You can't get it to print.
so you want.
no,
me-
it can
I have a
print.
printer downstairs you can take home.
No, whatever.
No,
It ends up
That's
cutting
fine.
off and goes
I'll just
into
print
the
mine.
page.
So print them all,
Every time you, it's on how you send it.
I will email, so it's easy to print.
Okay. So I'll send it to you, the straight Excel file, and you can print from there.
Admin,
Assist. Assist.
Yeah, right.
All right.
Right, I've had it.
Very good.
I'm gonna.
We have a quick executive.
Recording stopped.
Motion.
Yeah, we did.
Brain's fried.
Easy killer, you're moving too fast.
so I just.
You're moving too
Yeah,
fast.
yeah, no, don't turn that off, we're not
We're not done yet.
quite done.
Well, you guys don't want a recording for this?
We're not,
We
haven't
have
got
to
that.
make our
We're-
motion on TV
Oh,
though.
okay, so start it again right now?
Yes, please. Sorry.
And I'll tell you. I'll wait for you next time.
So,
Well, I'll just stay here.
You wanna read it?
Recording in progress.
200,000 coming in the budget as we've just done it. Last year's rate, 0.6750. The anticipated rate, 0.6746.
All right, oh, no.
It's real close.
That 200,000 is a huge influencer on
Right.
the result.
I'm sorry, I was
So,
being rude.
But-
Could you say that one again?
so the 200,000 coming in from FEMA.
Right.
Plug it in. See the result in the tax rate after all the changes we've done. 0.6746. 4 thousandths less than last year's tax rate is the estimate. So it's level funded effectively by tax rate. Again, with a contribution, which is a one-time. And we still have to answer all those other contract questions before we can finalize.
Yep. All right,
Okay.
very good.
We appreciate it, but you wore out your stay,
Sure.
okay?
Nah.
Like any good attorney.
Yeah.
I bill by the hour, I'll talk all you want.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah, we're good.
All right. I make a motion to go into executive session, being that premature public knowledge would clearly place the municipality, the public body, a person or persons involved at a substantial disadvantage, as outlined in 1 VSA 313 of Vermont State Statute.
Second.
And normally we state who's fighting in.
Yes.
Just the select board?
Just the select board.
Just select board, okay.
Motion's been made and seconded to go into executive session. Being that premature public knowledge would clearly place the municipality, the public body, a person or persons involved at substantial disadvantage as outlined in 1 VSA 313 of state statute. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Shut her down.
Okay. So we good?
So I was just gonna hit stop recording.
Recording stopped.
Thank you.
So I think when you said like, you're going away from, but you guys usually do at the end and like, you know.
And we don't come back, so we can just.
So I think, yeah, it's just stop video. And then, once you hit.
And